bell rang, echoing through the corridors of Sunrise High School. Students rushed out of classrooms, laughing, chatting, excited for the weekend. But Arham stayed behind, as always, gathering his books slowly from the last bench. It wasn't just a place, it had become a label. The last bencher. In every class, Arham sat at the back, sometimes by choice, most times because no one else wanted to sit with him. Teachers didn't expect much from him. His notebooks were half empty, his test scores always near the bottom. To some, he was lazy. To others, just another lost cause. He had grown used to hearing phrases like, "Why can't you be like your brother? You'll never make it anywhere. Stop wasting your life." But no one really asked why. Why he stared out the window instead of the whiteboard. Why his eyes always looked tired. Why he never raised his hand, even when he knew the answer. Behind the silence was a boy drowning in self-doubt, growing up in the shadow of a family that measured worth only through marks and medals. At home, his father rarely spoke to him without disappointment in his voice. His mother tried, but even her comfort had limits. His elder brother was a top student, on his way to a foreign university, the pride of the house. Arham was the opposite, the forgotten one, the mistake. But there was one thing no one saw, not even Arham himself: potential. It hid beneath the layers of self-hate, under the bruises of every insult, waiting. That Friday afternoon, as Arham walked home with his head down and shoulders heavy, he passed by a local cyber cafe. Something caught his eye, a poster on the wall. Free workshop, learn to build a website in 5 days. No experience needed. He paused. For reasons he couldn't explain, his feet stopped. His eyes stayed fixed. He had always loved computers, not the theory they taught in school, but the magic of how things worked. He had spent nights secretly watching YouTube tutorials on HTML and graphic design, not because he had to, but because it gave him peace. For the first time in weeks, something sparked inside him. He tore off the bottom of the poster that had the registration details. Maybe no one believed in him. Maybe he didn't believe in himself yet. But something had shifted that day, and that shift would change everything. The classroom was smaller than Arham expected. Just 8 plastic chairs, a whiteboard, and one old projector hanging loosely from the ceiling. It was nothing special, and yet it felt different. He walked in quietly, clutching a notebook and a pen. Most of the other students were older, college boys, even a girl in her mid-20s. They looked confident, already chatting about coding and design. Arham felt out of place, like a child who had walked into the wrong room. He quietly took the chair at the far end. Not surprisingly, the last bench. Just then a man entered the room, mid-30s, wearing jeans and a plain shirt. No suit, no formality, just a relaxed smile. "Hey everyone," he said. "I'm Faizan. I'll be your instructor for the week. And before we begin, let me say one thing. No one here is a failure." Arham blinked. The words felt like they were aimed directly at him. Faizan continued, "I've taught hundreds of students. Some were toppers, some dropped out of school, but the ones who succeed aren't the ones who start strong. They're the ones who keep going." The class began. Day 1 was simple. The basics of HTML. Faizan explained how websites are like buildings, and HTML is the bricks. Arham listened carefully, scribbling notes. His hands trembled when he had to type. When he clicked run and saw "Hello World" appear on the screen, something inside him cracked open. He had created something real, functional, with his own hands. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like a failure. The next few days passed like a blur. Arham came early, stayed late. He watched every tutorial Faizan recommended, practiced every tag, every line. While others took breaks, he stayed glued to the screen. Faison noticed. "You're serious about this," he said on the third day. Arham hesitated, then nodded. "It's the first thing I feel good at." Faison smiled. "Then don't stop." By the fifth day, the class was assigned a mini project: build a simple, personal website. Most students added basic info: name, age, hobbies. Arham stayed up all night designing his page. He added animations, colorful sections, buttons that worked. He named his site, The Last Bench Boy. When Faison saw it, he paused. "You built all this yourself?" he asked. Arham nodded. "This is better than what I see from college-level students. You've got a gift, Arham. Don't waste it." Those words changed everything. Arham walked home that night with his head held high. The city looked different. The shadows felt lighter. For the first time, he wasn't just a boy on the last bench. He was a beginner on the first step of a long journey. A journey he was finally ready to walk. It had been 3 weeks since the workshop ended, but Arham hadn't stopped. Each day after school, he locked himself in his small room, switched on the old second-hand laptop his uncle had gifted years ago, and dived into code. HTML led to CSS, CSS led to JavaScript, and before he knew it, he was spending hours building and breaking things just to learn how they worked. There were nights he didn't even notice time slipping past. The sun would rise before sleep found him. He didn't tell anyone. At school, nothing had changed. He was still the boy who sat on the last bench, still ignored during group projects, still overlooked during class discussions. Teachers continued to expect failure. Classmates still laughed when he gave the wrong answer or stayed silent during oral tests. No one knew about the world he had started building in silence. But inside, something had shifted. He no longer cared what they thought. One day, he was walking home when he passed a small print shop. On the window, a handwritten paper read, "Looking for someone to create a basic business website. Low budget. Ask inside." He stopped. His hands trembled. This was the kind of thing that happened to other people, not boys like him. He stood there for several minutes, heart pounding. He thought about walking away. Then he remembered Faison's words. "Don't stop." Arham stepped inside. The shop was small, with papers stacked everywhere, and a middle-aged man frowning at a broken printer. He looked up and raised an eyebrow. "Yes?" Arham cleared his throat. "I saw the poster. I can build websites." The man looked him up and down, unimpressed. "How old are you?" 16. He scoffed. "You ever build a real website before?" Arham hesitated, then pulled out his phone and opened the site he'd built during the workshop. The Last Bench Boy. He handed it over. The man scrolled for a few seconds, then looked back up. "You made this?" Arham nodded. After a moment, the man shrugged. "Fine. I just need something simple. 3 pages. Front, about us, and contact. You can start tonight, but I can only pay 500 rupees." Arham didn't care about the money. He just smiled and said, "I'll do it." That night, he worked harder than ever before. He asked Faison for tips, read forums, fixed bugs, adjusted layouts. Within 2 days, he delivered the site. The shopkeeper paid him in cash, worn-out notes folded into his hand. It wasn't much, but to Arham, it felt like a fortune, not because of the amount, but because he had earned it, using something he had taught himself. When he reached home, his father noticed the smile on his face. "What's the matter?" he asked, uninterested. "Nothing," Arham said. "Just finish some work." His father grunted and went back to his newspaper. Arham didn't need approval anymore. He had started believing in something greater, himself, and deep down, he knew this was just the beginning. From the print shop project didn't last long, but the confidence it gave Arham stayed. He began searching online for freelance work. Most websites required experience, a portfolio, or fluency in English, none of which he truly had. But that didn't stop him. He created a simple profile on a freelance site, uploaded screenshots of his practice websites, and wrote a short bio. Self-taught student passionate about web design, ready to learn and work hard. For weeks, there was silence. No messages, no replies, no job offers. He kept checking the site every hour, refreshing the page like it might change his luck. Doubts began creeping in. Maybe the workshop had been a fluke. Maybe he was just good compared to the boys in school, not the real world. Maybe he wasn't ready. Then, one morning, a message arrived. It was from a client in Dubai, looking for someone to design a landing page for a product launch. The budget wasn't huge, but it was a paid gig, $50. For Arham, it was like gold. He replied quickly, promising quality and speed. The client responded politely, "Let's see what you can do. Submit a draft in 24 hours." Arham skipped school that day. He locked himself in his room, powered up the laptop, and got to work. He gave the design his all. Clean layout, responsive design, smooth animations. By nightfall, he sent the draft. Hours passed. Then the client responded, "This looks very basic. It's not what I expected. Sorry, I'll go with someone else." Just like that, it was over. Arham stared at the screen, heart sinking. He had tried his best, poured in everything. Yet, it wasn't enough. He felt like a fool. Maybe the teachers were right. Maybe he really wasn't cut out for anything serious. He closed the laptop and lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling in silence. For 2 days, he didn't open the freelance site again. He barely ate, barely spoke. His mother asked what was wrong, but he just shook his head. Then on the third night, he received a voice note. It was from Faizan. "Arham, I haven't seen you online in a while. I hope you're not giving up. Listen, failure is the entrance fee to success. You got rejected? Good. That means you tried. Most people don't even show up. Now stand up, fix your work, and try again. That's how you win." Arham listened to it 3 times. Slowly, something inside him stirred again. He reopened the project. He looked at the client's message. This time, instead of feeling hurt, he studied it. Very basic. That meant something. Maybe his layout was too plain. Maybe he hadn't understood the product. He started redesigning the whole thing. Not for the client, not for payment, but for himself. It took 3 days. And when it was done, the new landing page was far better. He didn't send it to the old client. He uploaded it to his profile as a sample of what he... Every morning when Arham woke up now, there was a quiet fire inside him, a clear purpose. He was no longer the boy lost in the back row, unnoticed and uncertain. Over the last 2 months, he had completed several small freelance web design projects. Most clients were from overseas, and though the pay was small, every task added a layer of confidence, experience, and pride. He built a simple portfolio website to showcase his work. Designed his first logo by himself, he named it Code by Arham. It wasn't just a website, it was his new identity. Word got around at school that Arham was earning money online. At first, most students laughed it off. They said he was bluffing. Some mocked him, claiming people like them didn't make it big. But things shifted the day the school's IT teacher asked him to fix the school's broken and outdated web page. Arham rebuilt the entire site in 3 days. Clean, modern, and fully functional. When the teacher saw it, he paused, looked at Arham, and simply said, "This is the best work our school's ever had." Soon the principal mentioned Arham's name during morning assembly. He stood on the stage, looked at the students, then pointed at the boy who always sat in the last row, and said, "This young man teaches us not to judge someone by where they sit, but by what they're capable of." That day, for the first time in his life, Arham stood proudly before his classmates. He still had the same clothes, the same old shoes, the same quiet nature. But inside, everything had changed. He went home that evening and made a new decision. He would now help others too. He created a YouTube channel where he began teaching web development in simple, beginner-friendly language. He knew how many kids were out there like him, struggling silently, full of potential but with no guidance. And if he could help even one of them, that would be his greatest achievement. Today, Arham is still the same humble boy. No fancy phone, no expensive gadgets, no elite school certificate. But what he has now is far more valuable. Skill, self-belief, and a journey that turned failure into purpose. The story isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning. Because the last bench didn't define his place. It prepared him for the world.